Hey there! Have you ever felt like you're just drowning in a sea of scripts, data files, and folders that make absolutely no sense? If so, you are definitely in the right place. Today, we're going to talk about how to get from that total data chaos to a state of calm, focused clarity. This quote from W. Edwards Deming really gets to the heart of what data science is all about. It's about moving past our gut feelings, our opinions, and making decisions that are actually backed by real evidence. But that journey, from opinion to actual insight, it's not always a straight line. In fact, it pretty much always starts right here, with something that looks like this: raw data. And let's be honest, it can be messy, it can be a little overwhelming, and it's not immediately useful. The real magic is turning this stuff into something meaningful, but there's a hidden enemy that loves to get in our way. To understand this enemy, we first have to recognize a really important fact. Not all stress in data work is bad. There are actually two very different kinds of stress, and one of them is the villain of our data story. And this is a huge distinction. On one side, you have good stress. This is the analytical stuff. Honestly, this is the fun part. It's that thrill you get when you discover something new or when you finally wrestle a really complex model into submission. But on the other side, you've got bad stress, the infrastructural headaches. This is that soul-crushing feeling when you can't find a file from last week, or your code just breaks, or a colleague tells you they can't reproduce your work. This is just pure frustration. So that's the key right there. That infrastructural stress, it's the villain. It's a thief that just steals your time, your energy, your focus, pulling you away from the work that actually matters, the analysis and the discovery. So we need a way to defeat it. And that brings us to the hero of our story: thinking in projects. This project-oriented workflow is the mindset. It's the structure that saves the day by slaying that infrastructural dragon for good. So what is a project in this sense? It's really simple. It's just a self-contained home for one specific piece of analysis. I want you to think of it like a perfectly organized box. Everything you could possibly need, the data, the code, the outputs, the notes, it's all inside. That makes it so easy to share, to come back to, and for other people, or even yourself, to understand later on. And when you boil it all down, every project really just has two parts. First, there's the content. That's the what of your work: the raw data, the scripts you write, your documents, the final output. Then there's the metadata. That's the how. It's all the information about the tools you used, the exact versions of the libraries, and the history of all your changes. And you absolutely need both for a project to be truly reproducible. Okay, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds like a lot of extra work, especially if I'm just working by myself. But trust me, there's a much more personal and way more powerful reason to get organized. It's so easy to think you're working alone, right? Especially on your own projects or just for a class. But you're almost never truly alone, because the single most important collaborator you will ever have is you. You, 6 weeks from now, 6 months from now, maybe even 6 years from now. That's the person who's going to have to come back to your work, try to understand what you did, and maybe even build on top of it. And that right there, that's the real reason we do this. You're organizing your projects not just for some hypothetical colleague, but as an act of kindness to your future self. Every single choice you make today is either setting that person up for success or leaving them a chaotic mess to clean up. Okay, so let's get practical. How do we actually put all of this into practice? Let's talk about the actual tools of the trade that make this project-based approach not just possible, but actually pretty easy. So here is your basic starter kit. First, you've got R, the programming language that's built for this kind of work. Then you have RStudio, which is like your command center. It's designed specifically to manage these self-contained projects. And finally, Git. Think of Git as your project's time machine. It handles version control, tracking the how of your project over time, and creating a safety net so you never lose your work. It's a lifesaver for future you. Now, this might all sound like a big mountain to climb, but getting started is actually incredibly straightforward. Let's just walk through the very first step you can take on this journey to a much more organized data science life. All right, here is your mission should you choose to accept it. It's a simple two-step process. Just head over to posit.co. First, install R. Then, on the very same page, grab the free RStudio desktop. That's it. This setup is the foundation that lets you start every single new analysis as a clean, organized project from day one. So as we wrap this up, I'll leave you with a question to think about. Look at the work you're doing right now, or the project you're about to start. What is one piece of chaos you can tame? One small step towards organization you can take, not for a boss, not for a collaborator, but as a gift for your future self?